There was a sticker on there to help it focus, but it's not stuck on.
All right, guys, so we're gonna hop right into it because, like I said, we have a lot to get through today. So today, over the next 3 to 4 days, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be creating a model. But you guys put your phones away and let this up. Thank you. But over the next 3 to 4 days, you're gonna be building a model of DNA, and we're gonna use that model to explore the structure of DNA and also how DNA is replicated. So before we get into that, I just want to connect our last unit of mitosis and meiosis to what we're going to be learning now. So do you guys remember what phase of mitosis is DNA replicated in?
Metaphase.
It's not.
Is it prophase?
It's interphase. Dylan, you said interphase, right? So yeah, so if you remember, interphase is that phase where DNA is replicated. I'll quickly draw a picture of that. And do you guys why do you think it's important that our body duplicates DNA? Oh.
So the old ones could die?
The old,
Without you dying.
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. We need cells to be replicated so we can survive and also we can grow. And kind of just to summarize what you guys were saying, if our cells didn't duplicate the DNA and then they divided, then each cell would only have half of the DNA that they should have. So that's another reason why we need to replicate. And then this right here is a drawing of the cell cycle, if you guys remember that. And actually, interphase can be broken down into G1, S, and G2. And do you guys remember which one of these specifically DNA is replicated in?
S.
Yeah, S. So DNA replication happens here. So I just wanted to, keep that in mind as we're going through this next few days. So, but before we can really understand anything about DNA replication, step one is to learning about the structure of DNA. Because as you guys will find out, a lot of the structural features of DNA have they help out in DNA replication. But first off, I want to say, so DNA though is just a molecule. What I mean by this is, obviously DNA is a super special thing in the world. It's where all of their genetic information is stored, and it's kind of what all life uses to store their genetic information. But at its core, DNA is just a molecule, and it's just kind of a cluster of atoms that's no different from a sugar molecule, or all the atoms in an apple, and things like that. So in a molecule, I know you talked about this last semester, but it's just a group of 2 or more atoms held together. And DNA happens to be a really big molecule. Because as you look at our structure, and we'll talk about it, like strands, like DNA, it's super complex and has so many different molecules and atoms in it that it's just a lot. So. As I was saying earlier, DNA, although it's not, you couldn't say it's like super special in terms of the atoms that are in it. Like it just has carbon atoms in it. Just like there's nothing special about the carbon atoms in DNA. But like I said, what is special about it is DNA. DNA stores instructions for making proteins. And those proteins are the reason why we are the way we are. And those are proteins are ultimately what kind of make up the structure of our body. And then, again, what's special about DNA is all life on Earth has DNA. So right there, just kind of a brief overview of DNA. Any questions on that? Or is that all making sense so far? And then just so you guys know, I write very big, just because I think it helps me write neater. So I'm probably going to end up flipping my note sheet in a little bit here, but feel free to just organize these notes however you want to organize them. I'm going to do this. So next we're going to talk about the shape of DNA. Do you guys remember what the shape of DNA was? Yeah. Yeah, it was just the name of the movie we just watched. And here's how I'm kind of drawing a double helix. I kind of just make a squiggly line like this, and then make a squiggly line that kind of runs opposite of it. And every good picture of DNA also has. And you don't have to write this down, but I just find this super interesting. So the reason why DNA is shaped like a double helix, and this is pretty advanced, but the inside part of DNA, which is nitrogen bases, doesn't like water. It's hydrophobic. But the outside, which is like phosphate and sugars, is attracted to water, so it's hydrophilic, and that causes the hydrophobic part of DNA likes to be as far away from water as possible, so it goes to the middle of DNA. And then the middle part of DNA hates water so much that it twists in a way where it minimizes the amount of water that can get to the middle of DNA. But that will make more sense later. I just want to say with most things in science and biology, there's always a reason for why things the way they are. So I always think it's good to explain those reasons, even if they're a little complicated. What? So as we talked about, DNA is a super long, big molecule, but DNA is made up of basic building blocks called nucleotides.
that an O or an
Uh,
A? A nucleotide.
oh, that's an O right there.
Okay.
Yep. So, and a nucleotide is made of 3 parts. And just for the purposes of these notes, we're gonna combine phosphate group and the sugar together. And the phosphate group and sugar, these make up the outside of DNA. And these don't really provide any genetic information. Like, genetic information isn't stored in the phosphate group or the sugar. But what they do is provide structure to DNA. And I kind of like to think about these as the backbone of DNA. All right. And next up, we have the nitrogen bases is what they're called.
Instead of T or
Lily.
R. I don't want to get it wrong.
Let's say, oh, well,
B-O-X-Y-R or T?
R.
oh, sorry, you're talking about structure right here?
No.
Ribose.
Oh, ribose, R-I-B-O-S.
Yeah, it's a ribose. It's all.
And what's the dots for?
Oh, that is just me.
That's just.
That was an accident.
Oh.
I'm sorry, so I'm definitely nowhere close to being an artist, so.
No, you're good.
It's alright, Lily's just being extra.
All right, so,
I just said what everyone was.
all right, so, okay, so let's talk about nitrogen bases. And so remember, we have the phosphate groups and the sugars that are on the outside, but nitrogen bases, those are the things that are going to be on the inside of DNA. And then this is where genetic information is stored. So this is kind of the important part in a way, but I would say everything's equally important because you need all parts of DNA. So nitrogen bases, so in DNA, every single phosphate is going to be the same, it's just a phosphate. Every single sugar is the same exact sugar. But nitrogen bases are unique in the fact that you can actually have 4 different nitrogen bases. And those can be, I'm going to put them to the left over here. And these 4 nitrogen bases, you can think about them as kind of the alphabet of DNA. So we'll get into this more later, but yeah, that's how, by using these 4 different letters, that's how you can come up, that's how you can code for different proteins. So every combination of these letters is kind of a different word or protein in a way, but we'll learn more about that later. So yeah, so we have adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. These are our 4 letters of the DNA alphabet. Okay.
Can you like stop for a second?
Yeah, oh yeah, of course, yeah,
Thank you.
I'll let you guys catch up. One.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of these, and it always blows my mind when I think about this, but the only, like, if you think about it, the only difference between us and like a pigeon, for example, is just like their combination of these 4 letters is different than ours. So you can take these 4 chemicals and make any living thing.
So if like our whatever that is was switched around, we would be a pigeon.
I mean, if you, well, I mean, yeah, like all pigeon is just made up, DNA is just a combination of these 4 letters. I mean, but every organism has, that's not 100% true, 'cause but to talk about your point, Lily, like every organism does have a different amount of DNA in their system. So I don't know the exact amount, but I'm sure that us and pigeons have a different amount of DNA. So it wouldn't work out 100%.
It would be kind of cool to be a pigeon. I feel like.
Yeah. I know, I would want to fly too.
Doesn't matter.
All right, is everyone good, or do you need more time to copy?
I'm good.
More
One more
time.
time.
Perfect.
See, but mine is pretty. So do I. Yes, I do.
All right, I'm moving on, guys, and please be quiet for this next part. Oh, okay.
Lily, sorry. Take a picture and move on.
No, you're okay.
Okay, I got it.
You're good? All right.
I already said I didn't.
Okay. All right, guys, please limit the side conversations for this next part. So, as we kind of talked about, those phosphates and sugars are on the outside and the nitrogen bases on the inside. So I'm gonna draw a picture for you guys on how to kind of visualize that. So right here, this is what a nucleotide looks like. And remember, that's what we're talking. We just went over the 3 basic parts that are in a nucleotide. And then just remember that this nucleotide is basically the basic building block of DNA. And that pink cross right there, that's actually our phosphate group. And phosphate groups, they're always on the very outside of DNA. And that pentagon thing in the middle right there, that represents the sugar. Yeah, you can abbreviate it. It's your notes. But yeah, make sure whatever you write down, you know that this is the sugar. And then we're representing this rectangle out here, that's our nitrogen base. So this is always what the nucleotide looks like, and DNA is just a ton of these different nucleotides stacked on top of each other. And later in the assignment today, you'll see that you'll see how multiple of these interconnect together to make DNA.
What's the big one?
Big one is sorry about that. It's the phosphate group. And now we're doing a mini. Have you guys taken chemistry before?
I don't think so. I think my hands saved that lecture on it. Did you take
The conversation's over. We took integrated science last year.
All right, so I'm just wondering. So guys, do you know what
Oh, yeah, the elevator.
Well, boy, do you guys know what a covalent bond is?
Yes, I know what it could be.
Do you remember, so, are covalent bonds so strong or weak?
We have to, what's the word? Or, oh, the covalent and, what's the other ones? Back when they neuroscience, something out.
It begins with an I.
Ionic bonds.
Okay, there's one more.
Covalent and ionic.
Yeah, so those are the three, but covalent bonds are actually super strong.
Because aren't they two solids?
Well, in chemistry, covalent bonds, the reason why they're so strong is because they actually share the electrons. And ionic bonds are just when you have one atom with a negative charge, one atom with a positive charge, and the charges themselves are attracted to each other. But a covalent bond is where those molecules actually share electrons. And that makes it really strong. But how this relates to our nucleotide is the bond between the phosphate and the sugar is a covalent bond. And this bond right here between the sugar and the nitrogen base is a covalent bond. So yeah, so if it's strong, would you expect these bonds to break easily or? No, yeah, so this more applies to replication, but this is important for later. Now, down here. Well, wait, guys, can you stop the side conversation for this part? Thank you. So we're going back to our zoomed out picture of DNA, where we can see our double helix shape. In that yellow structure of this double helix, that's going to be our phosphate and sugar because it's on the outside. But inside right here, those are our nucleotide bases. And remember, DNA has two strands in it, as you can see with these two strands running along here. And each strands bond to each other through these bonds that happen between these nitrogen bases. And there's and so a hydrogen bond forms between the nitrogen base. Is this bond going to be weak or strong, the hydrogen bond? What are you guys thinking? Did you say strong? So, wait guys, this is a super important part. So hydrogen bonds, they're actually weak, and especially compared to so yeah, hydrogen bonds are weak and they form between the nitrogen bases. But that will be super important when we talk about replication. So just remember that for now. So I'm going to flip it. I'll give you guys a minute to write this down. I'm going to flip it over in a second. But while you're writing that, are there any questions you have? Anything that interests you, or? All right, I'm gonna flip it over. Is that cool? So there's something, and this is super important for DNA, it's called Chargaff's rule. this rule states in so guys, in Chargaff's rule, in a DNA sample, there's the same amount of adenine and thymine. And then on top of that, there's the same amount of guanine and cytosine. Do you have any ideas why this might be the case? I think we may have briefly talked about it when we were learning about history, the history of DNA. So, no, that's okay. And then I'm just gonna write guanine equals cytosine. And the reason why there's the same amount of adenine and thymine as there is this is because adenine always pairs the thymine in DNA. So guanine always bonds to thymine and guanine always bonds to cytosine. So just as a quick, if I told you that 20% of a DNA sample was adenine, how much of the 1% of the sample would be thymine? 20? Yeah, Christian, you're right. Yeah, so when we have 20% adenine, we would expect 20% thymine in a given DNA sample. Because it's just, they're the same. It's because when two things pair together, there's a 1-to-1 ratio of those things, so there would be an equal amount. And then, lastly, the last thing we're taking notes on today is adenine and guanine are actually somewhat similar structurally to each other, and they're classified as purines. And what a purine looks like, it kind of has 2 rings in it, in a way. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to draw that yet. Scratch that one out. Just focus on this. So yeah, so adenine and guanine are purines, and they both look like this, where they have 2 chains in their molecular structure. And lastly, we have thymine and cytosine. They're very similar to each other. Pyrimidines, they're the smaller molecule. They just have one loop in them. So if I asked you, so thymine and cytosine are more similar to each other, and then adenine and guanine are more similar to each other. And then again, we categorize them into the name purines and pyrimidines. And that's what we'll wrap up notes for the day. So I'll let you write that down. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So while you're writing this down, I'll say what we're doing next. So we're gonna do a quick little, like I said at the start of the lesson, you're gonna be creating your own DNA model. But before we do that, we're gonna have a quick little discussion about this where you guys can just turn to the person next to you and then discuss these two questions that I have for you guys.
Turn the other way.
All right, but I'll give you 30 more seconds for the minutes.
What's the bottom relation?
The bottom? Yeah, that's just primidines. They're just kind of one loop. Fat eating guanine are two. Oh yeah, I just don't, people are still taking notes. I'm giving you guys 20 more seconds. Alright. Okay guys, so this is what we're doing next. So I want you guys, can you just turn and talk to your neighbor, and if you don't have a neighbor, you can move to someone next to you, but first, just explain to your classmate what the structure of DNA is and talk about the specific molecules and bonds that are in DNA. And then next we kind of have more of a math question, so go ahead and read this and tell me what % of each thing is in DNA. And I'll be walking around and trying to help you out. So here, guys, yeah, go ahead and start doing that, please. Could you answer the second part? We got some bonus action going on there. Remember, everything has to add up to 100%.
So the admin. No,
Yeah,
it'd be
make
7.
sure.
It'd be 60. It'd be
What do
60.
you think about the
No, because
structure?
20 plus 20 is 40. So it'd be 30 of each.
And then guys, I'm gonna be calling on you to share out with the class in a second. Oh, sure, yeah.
Why are you mad?
All right, still filming. Whew. All right, guys, but please take 2 minutes. But guys, please take 2 minutes to describe the structure of DNA first. So just explain to your person next to you what the different molecules are and then what the different types of bonds, and explain what they are. Would you mind moving to that table so we can discuss real quick? So guys, it seems like you guys, I know these are kind of basic, but I just wanted to review it. So for number 1, maybe a little harder question would be, why do you think it's beneficial to have a hydrogen bond between each nucleotide, or between the nitrogen bases, sorry. So why do you think, so could you discuss with your group any ideas you have about why that hydrogen bond would be useful? And then we can kind of talk about that. And then, yeah, make sure to talk to them. So what are you guys thinking? Why do you think I do this?
Hydrogen bond. They have this same. Oh, wait, so this is the hydrogen bonds?
Yeah, those are, yeah.
Oh, I get it, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, in the double helix, you need the hydrogen bond to make sure that if it were to break, then there would be something there to hold it, you know?
Wow, that's
What
so
are you
interesting.
guys thinking?
I agree with everything you just said.
Because, you know,
Why do you think
bonds
hydrogen?
are really weak. So if it were to break, there'd be something there to hold it.
Yeah.
So then all the hydrogen would, you know, go and explode the world.
I understand you completely, so everything you just
I
said.
know. But guys, the key to it is are hydrogen bonds weak or strong? So yeah, so that has to kind of do with it. But so yeah, but we can talk. But oh yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, good job, good job. But all right, guys. So all right, wait. Could you listen up? So now we're gonna. So wait, Richard, could you share what you said about number one with the class?
It's better to have a weaker bond because it makes it easier to evacuate other cells with that shape of DNA.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because if it's weak, you can. I know we haven't really gone into it, so that's impressive that you knew that. But we're gonna go into this over the next few days. But in order to replicate DNA, you need to be able to tear those two strands apart, and you want that bond to be weak so you can actually tear them apart. Like for example, those covalent bonds between the sugar and the phosphate, those are gonna take way more energy for your body to rip them apart. So you don't wanna be doing that every time. But now what was your answer for number two?
It would be, the adenine would be 20%, and then the guanine would be 30, and then the cytosine would be 30.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Did everyone get that? So just to go over that quickly, so all you do is, so we know thymine pairs to adenine. So we know adenine is 20% of the sample because thymine is. And then from there we know that we have 60% of the sample remaining because 40% minus 100%. And then all you do is divide that in half because you know half of the remaining 60% has to be guanine and half has to be cytosine. So good job, guys. All right, thanks for doing that. And next up for the rest of the period, you guys are going to work on your model. And it's going to be a paper model. And what we need you to get done today is we're going to color code all the different parts of DNA and then cut them out. So guys, make sure everyone's paying attention to you're paying attention to the instructions. And then those colors are going to be on the board. So color, for example, so if cytosine's blue, phosphates are brown, just follow that guide. And then you should have, supplies are all around the room, so just grab one.
Oh, it's a package.
Yeah, because you have to, we're making a DNA strand that's, it has 8 or maybe 6. And then guys, this is kind of a useful tip. Because you're going to be cutting them out, you can just scribble and not draw within the lines. Just scribble on it, and then once you cut it out, it will look perfect. So don't worry about drawing in the lines. Well, it doesn't matter. And these models are gonna. All right, guys, so please get started on that. And if you have any questions about what you're supposed to do, well, make sure you're following, everything has to be certain colors.
All right, thank you.
So the guide's right there. You don't have to film. next to here. That was, I can just second that for this part.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Perfect. I'm just gonna. And then if you guys, you have
That was so creative.
That says diamond and yellow.
yeah, it's. I mean, it does say that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, it's different when I say it.
Real, make sure you're doing this done. This is, we need this. This is going to be super important to have for the next coming days. So make sure you get it done right now.
Okay, you want us to go to all of the pages?
Yes. You can just scribble over it, and then you'll just when you cut it.
Well, now I am already.
I mean, yeah, do how you want to do it, but I think that that makes it go faster.
Does it matter what shade of green we use?
No.
Stop.
You can't start.
Yes, I can.
No.
Yes, I can. I don't know how to do that. Yeah, what he said, I don't feel safe here. So you'd rather hear what I have to say, even if it was a mean comment for my safety?
Say the mean comment.
No. I will refuse to be mean to my friends.
I don't even.
All right, guys, but once you finish coloring and cutting for the day, there's 4 questions in these packets about structure. So you can.
You're not like really? That's.
Well, originally you guys were sitting somewhere else. Originally.
I'm so sorry. That looks so mean.
You're such a sassy teen.
Don't ever say that. Do not ever.
I'm just so.
That sounded like
That
you
was
like.
funny.
That's like you saying very mean words. That was like.
Like me saying a very mean word. That's not mean word.
If you give me a chance to, if Christian gave you this, no.
I need bubbles.
Wait, everyone listen up for like. Wait, everyone listen up for 30 seconds. Wait, guys, please. Wait, guys, please stop talking for 30 seconds, please. I just want to explain what these packets are. So, basically, this is kind of the, on the second page, you have your analysis questions that kind of go with this project. And right now, all we talked about is structure. So, when you're done setting up your model for today by coloring and cutting it, you can answer 1 through 4 in the packet right now. Because everything we went over is in the lecture there. So, and then, so go ahead and do that.
Yeah, time
But only after you finish setting up your model. Thank you.
That's not purple, Christian.
Yeah,
That is purple.
That's not purple. That's not purple. That's a
Where did the purple marker
That's,
go?
what is that called?
You guys want to know something?
I really don't care.
Yeah, we already knew you were gonna say that.
What do you say? I want to know.
I
really
he was
don't
gonna say I
care.
really don't care.
Oh. That's not very nice.
What does the yellow say?
Oh, the yellow, it says thymine.
I said a word.
Thymine.
See, but what person heard it? Just at the end of the day, they're saying the word.
Oh, yeah. Did you get, you already got the cards, right?
Because you said, I just said a word, like, that's what that reminded me of, I'm sorry.
He's saying yeah. Slur. You need to leave. If you're an architect, you can leave.
No, I don't want to bet.
What is cytosine? Cytosine?
First-
The
yeah.
color blue. How you say the color pencil? Okay.
Oh, I was not.
She said she wished it
I was talking about your other foot. No, I'm not weird with you.
She's just.
I'm not weird. Like, I'm not.
No!
Alright, not
I am a daughter of the pastor. I should not be held against me. My parents'
We need to stay within
my
the Lord's
parents'
boundaries.
profession should not be held against me. Shut up.
Within the Lord's
Shut
boundaries.
up. Oh my gosh.
Jesus would never.
Shut up, Dylan.
I'm.
I don't think anything.
Oh.
I don't think you. Damn, that was crazy. Oh my god.
You were in the league group.
I don't think you guys are funny at all. That's not rude.
Okay, Scarlett.
Okay, well, tell me the truth, I guess it's rude. That is rude. That's the truth.
Are you gonna catch?
Huh? Sure.
And the guys, sorry, these are the last instructions for the day, but if you finish cutting and gluing, another thing on the models, you see how, so do you see how there's like stars and circles and squares on your model?
Yeah.
So,
Are you supposed to match up?
so yeah, the circles match up to the circle and the square matches up to the square. And if you get to the point where you've cut out and colored your model, then you can go ahead, you should glue your parts together on those squares and circles so they match up.
Yes.
It comes out on Friday.
Who's gonna go to see that movie?
Me. Well, actually, we'll see you on the TV.
Marvel with DC?
You said Marvel or DC?
What about you, Lucy? Marvel with DC? What about you, Scarlett? Oh, yeah. Marvel with DC?
I don't watch those. I'm not into They don't excite me. When I was a child, I was into Barbie dolls.
Oh my god, I had those Barbie, I had those princess,
She says they don't excite me.
I had those Barbie heels. They're my favorite.
I will grab that. I think that works for you, Lily. You can go ahead and sit down.
All right, no way you just did that. There's no way you just did that. That is crazy. You literally just dropped down again.
I'm freaking hilarious.
During Black History Month too. Your Black History Month too.
So is yours.
I know mine's been over since the 7th. Yours is 2 days
Oh,
old.
yeah, you gotta
Down
pour
to
it.
grab what your essence is.
So it's gonna get some.
did?
Oh my god.
No, I actually was so scared. I was actually so scared when Tina came over and just dropped it on me. I did not understand what he was
Let me
doing.
just grab that for you.
See ya.
Don't forget like it's hot.
Why? I saw the video.
When you're finished, you cut them out.
Yeah, go and start cutting.
You had the performance? That's actually kind of funny.
That'd be hilarious if Chris performing that song. I would pay to see that.
Yeah.
It was exactly how you did it.
Oh my god, I fucked it
And I
up.
saw my child sing that song.
Mr. Mess Up, I already messed it up.
I was too.
Oh, it's a- I'm
because,
sure-
no,
I did
just
the
like
adenine yellow and red.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm
She's
doing it so
funny because on the birthday of Black
This is
History,
mine.
they gave the children watermelon and fries.
It's okay.
But
Hey, I'll take it. Maybe you can just go like a little
I'm in the
red.
white part.
What happened to my yellow?
I do feel for Black stereotypes. I don't like watermelon.
There's someone who be chicken and waffles.
I love chicken and waffles. That's my breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You never had chicken and waffles?
You've never had chicken and waffles?
Go to Waffles, go to-
All I get at Waffle House is
Waffle House is just yellow.
It's so good.
the hash browns are so good. That's all I eat there.
I had the.
That's all I have is the hash browns.
It looks like a waffle.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it goes cheat, so I came downstairs.
So you can, you can kind of just stack them on top of your notes and leave it in the classroom.
Yeah, I didn't recognize you. You look so skinny.
Lily, I would fight it.
Wow, thanks.
Wait, did you see that competition?
I think so. No, but I said the back when it comes.
That can't compliment. So it's like,
No, well,
you got so skinny. What happened? Like, don't say that.
well, basically, because like she's like, I didn't even recognize you. You look so skinny. So,
That is definitely like a nice.
how's that hip?
What do you say?
I said, how's that hip doing? She's like, see, I have beef with my grandma. Like real, she's like manipulative.
Lily, that is awful.
Actually,
Why would you say that?
I'm about to blow my nose. I'm about to blow my nose right now.
I have, like my hair is not the best.
I saw your yellow.
Oh, can I see the blue?
My hair is not the best one. And she's still she wants everyone to be independent on her.
No, what? Like,
The
my paper place.
like the more. Alright, see, I can say that. You can.
I would not.
I can say this.
The leg. No,
Well,
this.
my daughter has, she doesn't have a leg. Like this part.
Oh, that was very close. As I'm saying, it's like you guys gonna pop it in the microwave.
Crazy. The one thing about water is it's gonna pop in the microwave.
So my mom, it was like,
Bless you, Chris. I feel like this is
the name of the girl. Yeah, like my mom, I was talking to my mom about like school, and she's like, oh, and then like the conversation my brother got brought up. I was like, okay, working on that, this, that, and at the end of it, yeah, somehow.
How?
That's what I'm saying. Have you seen him?
Your brother's
He's talking about Christian.
rude. We're about to mark. Your brother is rude. He was so mean.
Is he just been no. Chris is one of Chris is our characters. I went to
He's always around. Like always everywhere. He like. No, I'm talking about basically. Like we were at a church. It was me and my friend. And he like And I'm like, yeah, we don't do stuff like that because we don't have big pussy like you. You know, because he needs to show.
No, she was asking me, oh, do you have a girlfriend? And I'm like, oh, no. And she's like, do you have a boyfriend? I'm like, what? Because that, I didn't think I would hear those two syllables, that word come out of her mouth. And I'm like, oh, no, also. So she's like, brown. That's what I was thinking. Like, I couldn't sleep because I was thinking, like, what if she won't she's like, if you ever need anything, please just tell me and I'll just be here to talk. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Mom.
I think my dad.
It depends, you know?
My dad.
It just depends on the kind of parent that you have. That'll either be accepting. Your grandpa.
I don't think any of my family.
I don't see it. He's real old fashioned.
No, he thinks that women should be able.
That's
I had a
different.
whole argument about it. I was like, no, like, women should be able to decide. And he's like,
No, grandpa.
no, women should be able to change.
Dementia. Oh, shit.
Wait, guys, so the class period's almost over, so can you please just stack up so what you should do is put your notes over here and then just put all of your packets and cutouts on top of it and just kind of store them over here. I think you have like a mail option.
I remember she was like, she was on Facebook. She was
No,
like,
you don't need to, you got class time.
She's always in my
Stop. Well, I mean, I guess that you could finish your bottle.
You could. And
Yeah, you do have class.
there's a lot of date with it.
Yeah. Yeah, just put it in a place over here where you remember where you don't lose it.
Yeah. Look, and I look at her and I'm like, she said that.
You could please. What am I gonna do with these?
Can I just put all my papers in my file cabinet thing?
Yeah, sure. There you come.
wait, so what do we put these? Over there?
I would just stack on top of the paper.
Wait, you can stand by that. They're probably in my house.
Put it in that. Yeah.
Lily, where are you going?
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. See you tomorrow.